My name is Greg Kiefer. I'm President and CEO of Kiefer Consulting. And this is Alan McBee, one of our senior .NET developers and mobile developers. And I've been on the board since the mobile conference started last year. I've also been on the board for the last 10 years with the state on the CIO Academy. So I've been involved as a trusted advisor to the state on a wide variety of topics. If you've ever seen me present, you've probably seen Alan present, maybe if you get involved in development. But I've presented on probably 20 different topics over the last 10 years on information technology. And if you're wondering, I just ran up the steps. So but one of the topics when we went through the mobility board and the process was trying to come up with things that are both technical and business centric. And also, if you know anything about our company, I always try to figure out what the tagline is for our company. We're innovative thinkers. You saw in the keynote today, one of our mobility for regional transit apps was up there. We looked at all the regional transit apps across the globe. I gave our team an assignment to do something that's never been done before. And that's an interesting challenge when you give it to a team of developers to say, go do something that hasn't been done before. And they're looking at me like, and what is it? So I gave them the challenge, and we sat there and we brainstormed and we went through all the other apps, and we said, let's put a bunch of features in this app that's never been done before that solves a business problem. So you'll see some of the context of the 8 takeaways here for the topics we're going to cover. And this is kind of, it's not focused on how to do development. It's focused on the business problems and the solutions that you're going to build in that mobile environment. So I'll give you 2 slides on Kiefer. We're experts in, we've done probably more SharePoint implementations than anybody in California in the SharePoint space. .NET, we've been doing .NET since beta. We do Edginars, educational seminars. We do CRM, which is does case management and a bunch of other stuff. It's another platform, development platform like SharePoint is, with a lot of stuff out of the box. And we've done a lot of applications. We got rated #1 in one of our apps for Fox News, and we have one of the highest ratings worldwide on our job search engine that we built. So I'm a president, and we have a CTO, Barry. Again, these are all some of our team members. And if you're doing any of the workshops, we're doing a 4-hour workshop today. It's in the 2nd hour right now doing the state template. So we're teaching people how to do the state template. And this afternoon, Eric and Hakira will be presenting on iOS and embedded application technologies and the differences between that and an HTML5 platform. So I'm going to give you guys a test. I thought of this last night at 9 o'clock, so we'll see if it works. I can't apply for this side. I got to go to the other side. I bought every one of these ahead of the store, so. I didn't have enough, so we'll kind of do random here. Kind of edge here. You're on the periphery, so you get one. Pass through the middle over there, maybe. Here. Got a few more. There's another here. Over here. Back row. You get some of this money for some of the back. Okay. I just gave you a tool, right? So how many people know what that tool is? Right? Know what the tool is? Can everybody kind of hold it up, see what it is? Can somebody describe what that tool is?
6-bit screwdriver.
Okay, 6-bit screwdriver. Okay, so some concepts here, right? That tool didn't exist maybe 20 years ago, right? Didn't exist. You had to get your toolkit out, your toolbox, and you had a screwdriver, a kit. I used to get those Craftsman tools when I was a kid, and you had the kit, and you had all these screwdrivers, right? Now you just have one. So that's a new concept, right? Justifying the project, reduction in product, and everything else. So it's easier to manufacture, it's cheaper to manufacture, it's multi-purpose. They have to market it, so we talk about that. You have to develop it, and you have to teach people how to use that tool, right? So the first ones weren't magnetic. You had to kind of clip the add-on pieces there into the end of it, and it's like, wow, there's got to be an easier way to do this. So now the tip is magnetic. And so you just take the one piece out you want, you clip it on the end, and it connects in. So user adoption has increased on those devices. You don't really see those really cool Craftsman tool sets anymore. You see these multi-purpose devices. You'll see that pliers and all the other things in that industry have changed on the locking mechanisms and everything. For feedback on this tool, there's issues with this tool and there's challenges with this tool. That's why there's more than one of these types of devices. And the easy use on these is very simple. What's the biggest challenge you think on this tool would be?
Losing the bit.
Yes, yeah, losing the bits, exactly. And there's probably not a universal adapter, so you can't just go out and buy a new set of bits. You have to throw that device away or keep the one bit you happen to recover from where you lost it and put it back. So this is, the reason I gave you this tool is because mobile is a tool. And I wanted to kind of use it as an analogy for the different topics we're going to cover today, is that mobile is a tool. You have to build, you build products with that, you build solutions with that, you have to market that. You have to, and the biggest thing is being educated on how to make the best decisions. It's not a hammer. So you could probably use it as a hammer if you tried to. If you take the flat bit with a rock, it might work as a hammer. But anyway, so those are different things I want to talk about today as why it's important to know before you jump into mobile, and how you want to justify doing mobile. We'll cover those different topics. Again, we see mobile as a tool for giving people access to the information that they need, but you have to understand the tool. So we'll go through some of these concepts here real quick. I'm going to hand this over to Alan, and I went past your first slide, but that's okay.
Okay.
We're just going to go back and forth on this.
So there are new concepts. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. There are just some new concepts with mobile development that weren't present so much pre-mobile space. Some of these you've probably heard of. Maybe one or two are a little bit new for you. These are not, strictly speaking, only mobile, but they apply very much to the mobile space. We've seen a big increase in crowdsourcing because the mobile device is ubiquitous, it's always with you, it's always connected, and it's a great way to kill a moment or two here or there. So I'm going to jump to the last bullet. The gamification is an approach for app development where you reward users for their participation with your app. Even though it's not a game, they get the sense that they're accomplishing something, that they get to participate, that they're part of a bigger idea or purpose than just knocking over a bunch of bricks with a bird in the Angry Birds scenario. Right, so the power of it is that you can also do the self-moderation. The people who are participating can sort of police each other, make sure that they're not going rogue. And so you don't have to devote as many resources yourself to moderating and checking every little update that's going on. So switching around, the freemium concept is being widely adopted because it's fairly successful. You give away a product for free that does a basic but useful, valuable function. And then you provide add-ons that are not really absolutely required to operate the app, but they certainly make it a lot nicer, and you charge for those. In the government space, that can be a little bit of a challenge, but I think that with some creative thinking, there can be ways to leverage that. And then finally, viral marketing. So that's a little unpredictable. We'd all like to see our app go viral, but it's tough to predict exactly where the audience is going to go with that one. However, mobile apps are definitely a lot more shareable in a lot of ways than sort of your web apps or something like that. So it's definitely a concept to keep in mind when you're looking at how you're developing and designing your apps. Switch back.
So one of the big questions you have, I think there's 1,500 people at this conference, and there's 40 mobile applications in the Showcase Center. So why are there 1,500 people at this conference and there aren't 1,500 applications? Anybody got an answer? Anybody know why? You're here learning, right? Was one easy one, right? What about lack of funding for that? Does your organization have the vision that they need to understand why mobile might solve a business problem for them? Maybe you lack the resources internally to build that, the creativity and stuff. There's a bunch of different ways, but one thing you have to do in mobile, again, you have to understand the mobile market, and that's what we're going to try to give you here in 1 hour, or 50 minutes, I guess. But also ways to sell it to management. The biggest way to sell these application management is giving someone the tool connected to a line of business application. If you go down to the Water Resources booth today, you'll see that in 2 weeks, we worked with Water Resources to build an entire customer service application called LevyWatch. And LevyWatch, what it does is it connects to a line of business application in the back end that this was all done in 2 weeks, that actually has an entire dashboard. So they can have GIS data with it. They have all the geospatial. The important thing is they needed a tool to give people access to provide data to them basically for free, because the people out there on the waterways, and you can take pictures of anything on the waterway and report an incident, and now it goes into their tracking tool within Water Resources. That's a line of business app. That's an easy one to justify. It's an easy one to have business justifications for, to get funding for, because you're collecting data that you couldn't collect otherwise. And you're being forward thinking, and you're being proactive in solving problems that you normally wouldn't see. If you don't have applications like that, then you're not actually collecting the data you need in a consolidated manner. How would you report an incident today? You might pick up the phone, especially if there's a leak in the levee that's near your house, right? Or call 911. Or you might actually go into Facebook, or you might tweet it and complain about it. You might go online and try to find some way to submit a ticket, which I don't know if that exists on their system. But there's just a bunch of different ways that would be disconnected. And what we did with Water Resources is try to figure out a way to consolidate that information that it would be easy for them. But again, bringing line of business apps to customers and justifying that. If anybody's in the medical industry, there's a tremendous amount of applications that are needed in that industry to make it easier for people in the field to service their customers, whether it's mental related issues or other health related issues. Giving them access to a device that makes it easy is a good way to justify that. And you can't do that with a website. You can't do that with, you can build an app that runs just on the device, but it's easier to have one that's touch sensitive, geospatial, and it collects a lot of data for you. That makes it easier. Push notifications, the only way to do that right now is the big advantage on those mobile devices. They have push notifications. Another app recently was built by California ISO that can push alerts to you, to the device, when they have issues with the grid. So when they have flex alerts, you can actually get notifications automatically on your phone to maybe turn your air conditioner off for the afternoon or something. It really works for all the major service providers as well. If you have green initiatives, I'll show you a couple examples here in a minute. Paperless tickets, Southwest has that, Amtrak has that, everybody's doing that. Parking has that. We worked with a company a couple years ago to build a ticketless parking payment system. You just hold your phone up with the barcode, reads it, and you go and you walk out. No credit cards anywhere, except on the back end. Catalyst to rationalize it, again, narrowing messaging channels. If you have a lot of different information in a lot of different locations, a mobile device can be used as a consolidator of that data. And again, we'll show you an example of that. One other thing in this space on the business justification is when you're building a mobile device, it's a limited real estate size or a limited platform. One of the important things is it forces you to prioritize the services that are the most important to your business, because you have a limited amount of real estate. It's not a website. That's a really good exercise to go through in your business to see which of your services are going to be most frequently used, and specifically on that type of a platform. Standardized content delivery, I'll give you an example of that in a second. A big thing that we have to talk a lot about when we talk to customers about mobile is this. I teach project management. I teach the PMI courses too. This is a project. A lot of CIOs and a lot of directors of agencies are saying, well, let's just go do some mobile apps. And here's a little bit of funding and go build them. Oh, hold on, wait a minute. This involves infrastructure, security, connectivity, web services. You have to make a decision on which of the 4 types of frameworks you're going to use to deploy it, and then which devices you're going to support in which order. And you need to understand those frameworks to see what the limitations are before you say, let's go build it on that platform. One is battery life. That's big. ASUS has the best battery life, and ASUS supports Android. So there's an example of, well, we had to do an inspection app, and they needed the battery to last 12 to 16 hours. ASUS built a battery in the keyboard. That was the deciding factor on that platform. The device that lasts up to 16 hours on one platform without having to recharge. Like, God, that's awesome. And man, those people work 16 hours a day, yes. No. The other one is resources, operations, making sure you have a budget for it, make sure you plan it. If you don't treat it as a project, lots of problems happen, right? One is if you have problems with your project, it's not going to get escalated properly. You're not going to be able to go to management and say, this is a project, it's in our portfolio, we're building this, it needs to have a steering committee possibly, it needs to have a decision-making body. and the other stuff. So make sure you treat your mobile application as a project. I know for the mobility conference, we actually threw a few together just to showcase some stuff here. We treated those as rush projects. But in the long run, all the other apps that we've built for a lot of our clients, and what you guys, the state has built, 40 examples today, they had to be treated as a project because it involves a lot of people. It's not just one developer saying, I'll do something creative with a mobile app. Here's one PORAC. I'll just give you a quick example on this. This is the Police Officers Association, Research Association. It's a union of officers. I think they got 600 affiliates with this. It's a really neat organization. They needed to build a mobile app that actually consolidated a lot of data from different sources. One big challenge they had is they didn't have a consistent feed for their events and for notifications and for pictures. They used YouTube for their videos, right? They used their website, they used email, they used a bunch of different formats. One thing that they did was super innovative is they used Facebook as their single source of, pretty much their single source of data. Facebook was connected to all the other multimedia or the social media platforms. Check the box, connect this to Twitter, connect it to LinkedIn, connect it to my news feed on my website, because they had a part that they put on their website. And now they could go to one place, and they got rid of all their email, they got rid of all this updates to their website, and they made it in one place. And they could entrust this to one of their members, administrative people in their office, not to go into HTML, not to go into an editor, not to edit the page, and to break stuff. And for the mobile application, it was much easier to support that framework that was standardized and a consolidated amount of information in one place than it was to go build all the software to engineer it. So two things happened. They got in, and they also re-engineered their processes behind the scenes that made it more efficient. There's a Kaiser Health app. Anybody use Kaiser? Yeah. You guys are still alive. No, just kidding. I'm joking. I use Kaiser too. Actually, I really like their services. The Kaiser application was a really neat one. It actually used they went through an exercise. Their website has a lot of features. You log in as a member. You can go into their website. I think their website's really hard to navigate. Clunky, kind of a bad interface, right? We weren't involved in this project, but they said, why don't they build an application? Why don't we take the use cases that are most frequently used, so you got to have your metrics on your website. And they said, well, these are the most important things. How many is that? 5. 5 things are the most important things to our members, right? They had to go through probably a pretty big exercise of which features they were going to put in this device when it was first released. This is a really neat application. You log in once, you actually get into the application, you have secure messages, it's geo-location aware. The data at rest, which is the data that sits on the device, which is like your user ID and password, is encrypted. Those are all things you need to think about. So here's an example of someone that actually built an application, went through the exercise of justifying it. I don't know if they had justified it based on the number of complaints they got about their member website, or if they justified it based on the fact they needed to get into mobile. But they built an easier interface without actually changing their member portal. So there's another example of this as well. Another business justification is reduced operational overhead. This is a really neat example. Bank of America, and almost all the banks have this now. And who actually has a checkbook? There's like a couple of people, right? Can I use it for a minute? Yeah. When was the last time you wrote a check? I don't remember when I wrote a check last. As a business, we have almost all our transactions online, except for, guess who? The state won't do direct deposit. I don't know. They could save a lot of money on postage, right? So if we wanted to, we could use Bank of America. We actually use Chase, or Wells Fargo. I don't have to go to the bank anymore. So I get a check from the state. We do our work. I said, oh, this is kind of cool. Click, scan it in, shred it. It goes right into my bank account. So what happened? What happened? I simplified the process. It's a super convenience for me. I don't have to waste any gas to get over to the bank. I don't have to stand in line, get to the ATM. Because when I go to the ATM, I always take money out, which is not a good thing. But they reduce their operational overhead. Just think of the services. Think of DMV, for example. The more things you could do in DMV to not stay in line, they've been working on this for quite a while, and they've made some very significant progress in that space. But they reduced operational overhead. And they reduced the number of people they need at the bank as tellers to support their customers by providing technologies like this. And this is just another really neat innovation. So you've saved gas, it's green, you've saved overhead, you've saved administration costs, just a bunch of different things. I'm just trying to give you guys ideas on how maybe justify your app. This is another neat one. They won an award last year, Calvet. You haven't seen this one yet. It's a really neat app. What they did, which was really innovative, Christy in the room? Probably not. Oh, good, she's not here, so I can make it up. No, just kidding. Christy actually didn't have the money to redo their public website. And they have a lot of data, and it's disconnected information. We have a lot of vets in our office, so I hear them complaining all the time about not just Calvet, but the veterans system in general, trying to navigate, trying to find the data they need for their parents or for themselves to say, what are my benefits? What they did at Calvet was really innovative. What they did is they took, and we didn't build this, wish we did, but they took this and they said, what if we could provide a better service to our customers like Kaiser did, for example. I'm going to build a mobile app and I can justify spending $80,000. But I can provide better services by re-architecting the information architecture and the flow of information through this type of a device for the constituents that are consuming the information that I need to provide to them. That was super innovative. I can't do the big project, but I can do the small project, and I can solve a problem for those people, at least all the ones that have phones or mobile devices, to actually allow them to get to the data easier than they can through my website. So I've kind of offloaded some of my risk by pointing more people to this app, and people really like this app. Look at the ratings, 4.6, and 20.2 people didn't like it. And I called them up and said, hey, you need to upgrade your phone. Just kidding. But we're showing the ratings on these two because we have some really funny ones later. So anyway, hopefully this gave you guys some ideas on the business side of thinking outside the box, thinking innovative. You've always heard the green stuff, but these other ones are really innovative from the standpoint of they didn't have the money for the bigger projects to re-engineer everything, so still solve the problem with a smaller budget. So I'm going to hand it back to Alan.
So we're going to look at how do you actually go about designing some of these apps. What are the considerations you need to keep in mind? And obviously, simpler is better, but sometimes it has to be said because there are people who will try to put everything onto the mobile device because it's there and try to make sure that people don't feel left out or chasing the tail. Whatever their justification is, the answer is that users really do prefer simple. If you got to do the complex stuff, you can put it off onto the web. So you want to prioritize your use cases. You want to look at where are you actually getting the most interactions with your customers, and then provide that on the mobile device. Start with that. We start with that, you will learn more about what your customers really need and want, and you can then adapt and mold and change your app in order to fit that scenario. It is always worth it to do some usability testing, and you don't really have to get a whole focused study group or a lab or anything like that to bring anybody in. You can actually just bring in somebody who doesn't know the business particularly well but might use it, and just sit them down with maybe even paper sketches of the app as it would behave, and then have the developers or the designers watch them try to get something done. There's a whole bunch of websites out there that will show you how to do a paper usability study. They're practically free. It's always helpful to get a video camera out there to capture exactly what they say and what they're frustrated with. But on the mobile device, this really kind of is a little bit more important than on the web. People, when they're on the web, you might expect that they've got some time to kind of find their way through or use the search button. On the mobile device, things may not be as intuitive as you think they are to the actual user. So usability is important. It doesn't have to be expensive. Obviously, mobile devices are primarily operated with these digits, and those are not very precise pointers. And that's part of why you get the limited real estate, is because you do have to make things bigger. And it does make you rethink how you're going to present the operations or tasks or information on your application. But it's, again, we have seen a bunch of apps that come out from other vendors where little lines of text are on there that are hyperlink, and you have to click very carefully. You want to avoid that. Users get very annoyed by that, and they will leave your app after a while. And finally, again, these are sort of obvious, but again, we do see these. You want to avoid a lot of data entry. You want to keep everything down to maybe 5 to 9 fields that they have to fill in. If you get much more than that, it's probably better to go ahead and shift that entry off into a website. The caveat to that is that if you can collect some of that information automatically, then it's okay to put in some more of that information, like you're getting coordinates, geopositioning, time of day, things like that. Those are all things that you can collect automatically. You also want to try to use shorter lists. For example, if you've got a combo box that has every store location that you, or outlet or office that you want to send people to, if they got to sit there and scroll through 200 lists, that's very annoying and it's not really very helpful. It's much better to take them a stage or two at a time and sort of pre-filter, or try to use something that's near where the phone actually is, user location. Most users are okay sharing their location. That's the second bullet point. Try to customize that data based on the location. And if you can tell what the user's type is, like who they are, if they can sort of self-classify what they're up to and what they're doing, you can use that information to filter the list. Do it. It really does make a big difference. Look at the other applications on the market, try them out, download them, play with them, even ones that you may not personally want, just so that you can get an idea of what's working, what's not working on other apps. I mentioned this before, but it's okay to fall back to the web for the more complex scenarios. Most phones are going to have a good browser built in, or give them a way to like send themselves a link to where they can follow up with more information. You know, like if you can bookmark an entry, like in your, if you're trying to think of a good example here, if you're trying to do something that requires a lot of data entry, you know you don't want to do that, but you don't want to leave the user completely hanging, you can say, okay, look, you're going to need to go to the web. We can email you a link that will pick you up from where you left off. Something like that. You need to decide which devices you're going to support. Obviously, Android's kind of the biggest market share right now. But there's a lot of reasons why all that may change dramatically. We don't really know exactly where it's all going to head. Obviously, it makes a little bit of sense to target Android first if you just needed to get the biggest number of eyes that are out there. But that may not always be the case. So I'd be prepared to look at the other devices and what's going to be your story for them too. That includes Apple and the Windows Phone. And then the narrower use cases, Greg kind of mentioned this a little bit before, that if you want to take the use cases that aren't going to be long and complex, don't walk you through a whole lot of pages, but are just sort of simple in and out. A lot of people have their phones and they're just standing in line at Starbucks or the grocery store, and they just got a few minutes to kill. What can they do? What can they do to interact with whatever you do? Maybe just read a notification. Maybe just check the status of something. Anything like that. Those are all very helpful to have on the device so that you don't have to remember to do it later when you get back home. It's always a bit of an annoyance. Got a few apps here just to kind of show a little bit what we're talking about. Southwest has an app. You can't do everything on the Southwest website on this app. There's only a few things that you can do here, but they are the most important things that you might want to do. You see that they've tried to make sure that everything is on the front screen. You don't have to scroll up a big list. There is a more button to take some of those secondary use cases out, but I think that's about where it's going to stop. Look at the Amtrak application. Again, very simple, big buttons, not a lot of scrolling. And if some features here that make it even more convenient, like having a little flip panel. Is this thing? Yeah. The laser pointer. There we go. Little flip panel right there that just shows you like where your next stop is going to be, or next destination is going to be, or next bus is going to pick you up. And then, of course, the paperless ticket there so that you don't have to remember to carry around or print out the ticket before you go.
One more thing that was on that app as well is that in the top of it, if you do build the app, you can actually do where the yellow button is and the blue or gray color. That actually allows you to do inline advertising for your app. Not Google ads, not all the other ads. You can put messages out there that are relevant to that person, so you can have a profile for the person depending on where they're at. You can do regionalized advertising. You can also just do awareness things. So if you want to point people to, say, your website, because you have a new notification out there, or you have some important facts about health, you can have a button there that is randomized based on some priority having organization of a campaign you're releasing next week or something. and you can advertise within your own app. So take advantage of all these different things that are available now, and those can launch out to, say, typically a website, or another mobile-like application that's responsive in design, so it runs on a mobile device. But those are just other ideas you can have for getting more people to use the app, but also getting more people to getting your message out there from your directors and your agency and stuff you want to advertise.
Right, and it brings up also a good point about advertising. Whoops, it's too fast. There we go. That button. There's a phenomenon that you probably heard of called banner blindness, when users are on the website and whatever is up at the top of the screen, if it looks like an advertisement, they just don't see it. With these apps, you can get a lot more control over where you're going to put things. Now, if you put an ad with most SDKs like at the bottom, that will probably be blind to the users, kind of depends. But in this area, as Gary's mentioned, you get full control over that. You get to do whatever you want. And I don't think the users are going to have as much options to sort of skim over that part on their site. So it should be a lot more worth your while. ADA inspection app, another line of business app that was done to, was it prison CDCR?
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. Actually, you know more about this application than I do.
What this application did is it connected to a line of business app in the back end. But they took a 6-inch binder, put it into a database, and then we actually built this app. But we connected that application based on the geolocation and the prisons they were going to inspect that day or that week for ADA compliance. And it would only filter and download the data for that specific geolocation. So they took this huge binder they used to walk around with all the ADA regulations in it, and we put it into a mobile device that they can walk in to take a picture of a cell or a restroom or a door size, or they had, the data elements were astounding what they had to go inspect. But we actually filtered that. And then when they narrowed it down between, say, a specific room and a specific item like a sink they were inspecting, it would continue to filter the data so that when they actually had to touch things on the screen and the device, the list was very short. And it was very focused. And it was also very relevant to the specific item they were inspecting versus flipping through that 6-inch binder, trying to find the stuff, and then record it on a pad of paper, and then type it in when you got back to the office and go, I forgot something. I forgot to ask one question, like what was the dimension of the sink, or how deep was the sink, or how high was the sink, or how close was it to the wall. And they had all those questions there in front of them. So building applications like that on mobile devices saves a ton of money, a ton of paper. The data accuracy went through the roof in improvements. So I don't know what the drop rate would have been on inaccuracies, some percentage, but you reduce that significantly by making sure they actually looked at all the questions that were relevant to, say, that sink that was in that restaurant.
Right. So another great point is look at not only public-facing, consumer-oriented kind of applications, but internal line of business for field workers or inspections. The Georgia Emergency Management Agency has, this is kind of for the public, but one of the concepts in here that's really useful is it has these personal checklists. So if there are checklists that you find helpful, you can put these on the mobile device and it'll just sit there and keep track of it for you anywhere you go. It seems kind of obvious, but it's a great tool to have when you have it. And go back to marketing, yeah.
So is this interesting to you guys, or I want you guys to, that's why I call it Innovative Thinking Company. These guys know I don't sleep. And they said, is there any day that you don't come in with a new idea? And I said, probably not. I thought of 3 more last night, and I promoted those to the mobile team, and they're like, you're nuts, man. I want to do 3 more. One's called Don't Be Late, which we already built. It reads your calendar dynamically based on the day, and it takes the geolocation of where you're at and where you need to be. It's one-click navigation, so you don't go through your calendar and try to find out where you need to be. And we're going to patent that one, so can't tell you too much about it. Yeah, we're going to take the same app, and now it applies to mobile nursing. So we actually built it for mobile nursing, and my sister's a mobile nurse, and she goes out and does the blood tests and everything in the homes. So it's the home nurse network, I guess. Same application. And so we call Map My View or Map My Day, and it actually reads your calendar, reads the map, reads your geolocations. It actually allows you to pinpoint places for lunch. And that's how I don't sleep. And so Map My Day now turns into Sales My Day. So Sales My Day, exact same app repurposed. So when you build these applications and you're building them for the state, think of how you can share those with other agencies and repurpose them. That's another way to save money. So if you see, say, Water Resources builds a cool app, I'd call Tim Garza up and say, Tim, give me the source code. You know, the state owns that IP. Give me the source code. I have the exact same thing with a different web service in the background. I need people to go out in the field, do citizen science projects. You get people to do the research for you, connect to a web service, you've got the same app, just repurpose it. So that was my idea last night after working 15 hours.
You just don't be sleeping either.
Yeah, no, it's due next Friday. No, just kidding. Marketing, viral marketing, we talked about that earlier. Press releases, anybody do press releases still? They actually work, and it's a science. So really understand that. So look at the other agencies before you release your press release. Make sure you understand the purpose of the press release. Make sure you word it correctly. Our first press release got picked up by, this was like 10 years ago, it got picked up by like maybe 5,000 people. God, that sucks. You should have hundreds of thousands of people blogging about your press release. You go through that into science. So what we did is we read another 30 press releases because I got pissed because I did the first one. I yelled at myself. But I got back to the team. I said, what did we do wrong? It should be picked up by hundreds of thousands of people. So research that. Look at the press releases. And Google gives you the statistics. Bing does too. How many places pick up that specific press release? Look how they word it. Look how they mastered that art. And leverage it for your app. Because if you're going to build an app and you're going to invest in it and it's a public consumer app versus a private one for your organization, make sure that you understand this. And we reach out to a number of different companies. Market Communications is one we use. And they've helped us with understanding that market better so we could actually get more exposure. Embedded marketing, this is a really neat one. I'm going to show you, I don't think we have the app in here. You'll see this in Facebook and all the social media tools. It's in our JobMo. We have a JobMo application. When anybody in JobMo finds a job and they want to share that job with someone else, what do? Well, we have all the social media links at the bottom. They click Facebook and it posts it in Facebook, right? Okay, that doesn't do me any good, right? It doesn't do me any good from marketing my app, promoting my app, selling my app. We have over 130,000 users. We get about 10,000 users a week, and sometimes we get 5,000 to 10,000 a day of downloading our app. And the reason is because of the viral marketing, but also the fact is when you actually take the link and you embed it in your social media feed, embed your application. A link to your application. This job was posted by JobMo. It's free. It's free. It's just a concept that you should understand about getting people to use your app. The Georgia Emergency Management application, really neat application. I thought that was very innovative what they did there. It got a bunch of awards and everything. But what they did was they tried to embed social media. And I don't know, I didn't look at their app to see if they did that. But if they do that and they actually are posting things to Facebook to say emergency happens, you have thousands of friends in Facebook. Heaven forbid you have thousands of friends in Facebook, but kids do, right? And they know them all. But when they're in an emergency situation and someone's using that application, they're going to say, post this notification to Facebook. I found my brother, or I found my parents, or I found a coworker, and they're going to see that link right there. They're going to click on that link and they're going to download that same application. And so think about that, and then you get to use all the other benefits of what Georgia's trying to accomplish with that application from a marketing standpoint. Find social media sites that target your core competencies. This is another one I learned from Market Communications. They took a site that had about it was a fundraising site for cancer. Maybe they had 50 people at the site, they were using this site. And she said in 1 week for $500, we increased that to 20,000 users and the fund donations went through the roof. So their ROI on that was astronomical. What'd you do? Do I have to pay you to tell me what you did, or are you just gonna tell me? So what they did was they advertised on all their competitors' sites. So they went to cancer.com and all the cancer research facilities, and you can advertise on Facebook for like a penny or less. Have your advertisements run on those sites when they go to the Facebook site or the corporate site for, say, cancer.com. You'll see your ad, and they'll go, oh, this is cancer related. Oh, this is related to the cancer that I have. You click on it, you go to their site, and you say, oh my gosh, here's an entire site with all the information I need. So what I would do for your state sites, if there's other states that have sites that are doing the same thing that you are, 10 minutes, oh, dude, man. I can talk faster. Thanks. But it actually has, it allows you to promote your site and your cause. So if you want to have those other sites, other state sites that are, say, I'll keep using public health, advertise on their website. And it doesn't hardly cost you anything. And you get more people coming to your site because you want people coming to your site to get the information that you're trying to share with them. And then the biggest one, we always say, nominate it for an award, because then you get recognition for your app. Integrated with social media, it's obvious. All the social media feeds that are popular now all connect to the other social media feeds. And so you only have to post one place. If I post in LinkedIn, it sends it to my Twitter feed, so it tweets for me automatically, so I don't have to tweet because I hate tweeting. And it also goes to our corporate website. And it also, all those sites have RSS feeds. And in YouTube, when we post videos in YouTube, which we have quite a few in there under the collaboration experience, those also post back to our social media sites. So take advantage of that feature as well. All right,
All right, we'll make this quick.
9 minutes now.
Yeah, so this is not a development talk. But
I talk a lot.
In one of our hands-on lab sessions, we have this development strategies, but I think the slides will be made available. This is basically just a rough decision-making tool to help you decide how would you create your mobile app. Would you make it a mobile web app? Would you make it a native app where it's actually written in the language of the platform? Or would you do what we call this embedded app, where it's a web app within the native shell? So I'm not going to walk you through those, but there are reasons for doing one versus the other, and it depends on what your business model or what your business processes are. As you're doing the development, it's worth considering putting in some of these features, the automatic error reporting, so that if the app crashes, and in the mobile space, this tends to happen more frequently than a normal desktop app. Users are kind of okay with that, we found, but they want the thing to recover very quickly. You want to know, why did it crash? So you want to make sure that those features are kind of baked into your app. You can also get much better statistics, data about what features are they actually using. How long is it, because you know when the app is actually up and then when it's down, as opposed to a website. When they walk away from it, you're not always sure about that. In application analytics, they're a lot like web analytics. Pay attention to the privacy features. Apple and Microsoft are very keen on making sure that users' privacy is respected. So they have policies in place to make sure that you're not just collecting data willy-nilly and sending it wherever. All the platforms have got ways to secure sensitive data while it's at rest. And another important thing to think about and this includes the web applications, mobile app applications, is what do you do with the data when it's on the device and it's not running? How do you store it? How do you save it? And it's important because it makes the app much more useful if they don't always have to be connected online in order to use it. A couple of examples here. We have a state directory application, which I think that's an embedded web app.
Yeah, this is an embedded web app. And what we do on this application, we do collect data. So if you use this app, you're warned. It actually shows in the policies. Why do we collect data? Because we want to know which states are using it. So the data we collect is we collect the device, type of device, no device IDs, no personal information, type of device, and we actually keep track of the query that was performed. And why do we do that? Because you get to collect analytics that are really interesting about usage. You can say who's using it by state, what type of people are they looking for, what type of people did they not find. So when they put someone's name in there and they can't find it and it's in there, that helps us build a better application to say, look at all these queries with no results. Wow, either the person's not in there or they typed it wrong or our application is not functioning properly. So it's a really neat application because we collect just very basic information about, and we see which devices are being used most frequently. So we get, it says Android or iPhone or Windows Phone now, and it says here's a query they performed. And that tells us the usage statistics that we wouldn't get from the frameworks that are provided.
Great. I'm just going to say this is really cool, and you need to come down to our booth and take a look at this thing. These buses move around in real time. I'm showing you this because it's got multiple data feeds. We've got the Bing map on here. That's the Google Street View. We bring them together along with the service that tells us exactly where those buses are and what routes there are. You need to see this app in person. It's in our booth.
And it's one app fits many services. So it's all the 80% of the cities around the country use the same data. So build it once.
Yeah. User adoption, you want to take over?
Okay. Just got a couple more to go. So again, make sure when you go build any kind, remember it's a project, make sure you have a reason for building the application and make sure you understand that. What are you trying to measure? Again, the only reason we track some statistics in that state directory is because we want to know the type of devices and we just want to know what kind of queries people are submitting. We don't do anything with them. But about once a month we go in there and look and say, hey, we have more Android than we do. The main thing I want to know are people using it. And if they're not using the app, then I need to know why they're not using it. And we got lots of users for that. Again, usage, track your usage. The new market services, at least from Microsoft, they don't do it on Google and Apple yet, they will tell you the daily usage. Every time that application is launched, Microsoft knows when you launch that app.
Check it by the minute.
Kind of scary, but
minutes your app is up
yeah.
and running.
But from our standpoint, it's awesome as a developing a company that builds products as well. I can go in there now and say, hey, people are really using our app. You can't tell. We have 130,000 downloads as of like 2 months ago for JobMo. I can't tell if a single person's using that app. That's difficult because, like, well, are they using it? I can tell one way they're using it is when they say updates because we get statistics on updates. But it doesn't really give me the metrics I need to make better business decisions, like I'll make more investments in that application or not. So again, what are you trying to measure? Make sure you build the infrastructure for that and the web services that capture that. There's a lot of things built into the frameworks. Make sure you understand those frameworks. They can do a lot of statistics and a lot of stuff for you to capture information that you don't have to build.
Can I talk real quick about this? So gamification, we mentioned this earlier. Many people have not heard about this. It's worth looking into it. Basically, it's just using a basic psychology of positive reinforcement combined with sort of this awareness that your user is not sort of a vague entity out there using your service, but a real person who wants to feel involved, who wants to feel like they are contributing to something that matters to them. And gamification is using lessons learned from the game development arena about how do you keep somebody addicted to Halo 4 and Gears of War or whatever.
And Angry Birds.
And Angry Birds. But put it into real world business or publicly valuable applications. And so you need to be a little, before you jump on, you need to be a little aware there is like a valley. If you just put badges and points for certain kinds of accomplishments and leave it at that, you will get what's called the loyalty backlash. So you need to think a little bit more about what can you do to make the person feel like they are part of a group and that they are contributing and that their time spent on this is valuable. So worth researching, but we just want to mention it just to bring up some awareness.
One, I can't remember the name of the application, but Dave Pepper uses it. It's actually, we have one guy that's, we don't let him out very often in the back of our office. Not Dave's a great guy, actually. But he actually has a game he showed me, and he was doing it downtown. He likes to take, he's trying to do a lot more walking. There's a game that it's a war game, but it's not really. It could be used by every single city in the country should use this game because you go take a picture and that object becomes a target. But you have to go through a process of getting those targets approved by some entity. Maybe they vote on it or something, so you got the social media voting. But you actually go to that with a group of people that you don't know on any given day, and they go to that target, and you get all the badges and the awards and how many targets you've been to and how you teamed, and you also get targets and gamification of how many other people you saw while you were there and connected with. It's a really neat app, especially for a city trying to promote the art in the city, the walking in the city, promoting the city. So I'm sure the company built it with that in mind, but it's an app that was kind of cool where they did gamification with social media. A big one, user feedback. Boy, this is dangerous. You used to be able to kind of control it. You can't control it anymore. So you need to build high quality applications. You need to be ready to respond when something doesn't work quite the way you think it should work. And you need to have a plan, an action plan to take action quickly when people, you'll see in a minute, I'll just show you an example. Here's an application that was built. Look at it, awesome, look at that. 44,000 people love this application. Oh, yes, right? Somebody bought it. And I'll tell you who this is. You can go online and find this. I don't think they bought it. What they decided to do is they decided to make it, give it a new name. And so they gave it a new name. Da, da, da. Oops. This is a while back, but I'm sure they have 20,000 users now. What they failed to do, they gave it a new name, and all marketing, all this campaign, everything else, people hated it because it was the same app. And they expected something new. And the big challenge they had was the user experience changed on that device. You know how Apple's progressed over time, Android's, their UI keeps changing, now Windows Metro is out with the phone. If you release an upgrade to your application and you don't address the user interface to improve it to match the current trend in that device, because all of them are different, well, look what happens. The app, we had the screenshots of the app, it's 100% the same app. Exactly the same app with a new name. Nothing changed. It's really interesting how people responded. Because they said, you gave me a new app. Well, Android has a new UI with all these really cool features, and none of that's in your app, so I'm going to give it a bad rating. And that's what they did. I was blown away by that when I saw that review. That wasn't our app, by the way. The company starts with an M. You might figure out who that is. Big one here is supportability. This is on the infrastructure side operations. Make sure you put in place a team of people to be able to modify, support, and maintain that application. As Alan was saying earlier, all the issues with not updating your app, not being responsive to the market will cause you to get really bad ratings. And when your directors and they go onto their website to look at their cool mobile application and it has a 90% rating and it's in the negative, guess who they're going to come looking for? A target. So don't be that target. Make sure you have this in place to be responsive to that, and make sure you plan it out ahead of time what you're going to be doing. Here's some examples of places where you can start. Start with the California website for mobility. We're co-presenting with the mobility team today in our workshop. Make sure you go there and look at the examples they have. And if you want to start simple with a multi-device supportable application, the California template is very easy to use. It's HTML5 based. And they just recently updated it. And they're more than happy to come out to meet with you as well. You can come up and ask questions. We're out of time. But here's a few of our clients. Got lots of them. We're actually been doing business for 25 years. We just celebrated 25 years this year. We're a trusted advisor to the state, which means you can call us anytime you want to have us come out and talk. You can call us on the phone. If you're trying to solve a business problem or a project problem or a technology problem, we'll solution that with you guys. And that's free, because we want to make sure you build a good application and continue to improve the image of IT in the industry for building great solutions. Anyway, that was it. Do you like that?
Yeah.
Good.
Very good.
Thanks.